Hi! On the Woodpecker today, I'm making another clamp rack. I'm sure you remember my first episode when I built a clamp rack for my old basement workshop. I liked it so much that I've moved it inside my new shop. But now it's at full capacity. I have no more space in it. I'm at the same place I was more than 5 years ago, when clamps were lying all over the place. I need to do something about this. I use the basic clamps way more than the rest of my clamps. So, to solve my problem, I think I'll make another clamp rack and move the non-basic clamps onto it. And this wall is the ideal place to have a long clamp rack. I begin by going onto my loft and get some leftover construction lumber. A 2x8 is way too wide. I rip it in half. Then I joint it. But to be honest, I think this is overkill. But I make sure both pieces have the same width before wasting my time passing the two boards inside the thickness planer. But one thing's for sure, now the wood looks very nice. On my original rack, I have a lot of small dowels which hold the clamps in place. I also need some for my new rack. So, I mark the placement where I want them on both pieces. Next, using my drill angle jig set at 5 degrees, I drill a hole on each mark. At one point, I have to be creative to hold the piece in place. Okay, now all the small holes are done. I need to switch for a bigger drill bit and drill the rest of them. I want my clamps at this height, but the only place I'm sure I have something to drill into is here and at the top. So, to be able to screw the rack there, I cut small pieces of wood and cut mortises to hold them to the rest of the rack. When it's done, I glue everything together and leave this alone while the glue dries. So, now it's the perfect time to start working on the dowels. I begin by cutting square strips in any scrap wood I can find lying around. Then, using a 1/4 round bit, I turn those square blocks into long dowels. When I have enough, I cut them to length. Then I need to make one of their ends round. I begin by drilling a hole the same size as my dowels into a scrap piece. Next, I raise the router bit to the height of the bottom of the hole. After pushing the jig onto the spinning bit, I clamp this in place. Now I can use this the same way as a pencil sharpener to turn the end of each dowel round. After a while, I have enough, but the other side, which will be inserted in the holes I made, is too sharp to my liking. To chamfer the other end, I lower the bit and sharpen the other side. This will be much easier to assemble now. Okay, I have all the small dowels, but I need bigger ones too. I redo all the same operations and make a bunch of bigger ones. Now the glue is dry, so I can round over all the sharp corners. And sand them smooth. I'm finally ready to glue all the dowels in place. Here they are drying. I just need to wait a little while, and then I can spray the first coat of finish. I spray 2 coats. And just before going to work, I make sure they're in a safe place, far away from the rain. The next day, we can install the rack in place. I begin by drilling a pilot hole, and I use a long screw. I managed to find some studs and put a couple of screws there also. But René is complaining that I have all this space for my clamps, while all our shovels are lying all over the place. Since I'm a nice guy, I give her a small space for the garden tools and our shovel collection. Then I can put some clamps in place. I go inside the shop and get the clamps I want to move onto my new rack. I'm very happy. I don't have clamps lying all over the place anymore. René is also happy because the shovel collection is out of her sight. But I have one small problem. The rack inside the shop looks half empty now. Well, I'll need to fill it up. You might be able to see more clamps appearing here and there in future episodes of the Woodpecker.